In this video tutorial, I'll talk about square roots and fractions. Here I've got a column of whole numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and each of these numbers are being raised to the power of 2. 1 squared, 2 squared, 3 squared, 4 squared, 5 squared. 1 squared is 1. 2 squared is 2 times 2, 4. 3 squared is 3 times 3, 9. 4 squared is 16. 5 squared is 25. 6 squared is 36. These numbers here that I will circle in red, these numbers here are what are called square numbers, perfect square numbers. Perfect squares. They're called perfect squares because they come from squaring whole numbers, and they give you new whole numbers. But what's nice about these perfect squares is we can square root them easily. The square root, written like this, it means what times itself gives you the number in the square root. So if I wrote square root of 4, I would be asking what times itself gives 4. If I come back, I'm going to circle this in green now. If I come back and I look over here, 4 comes from multiplying 2 times itself, and therefore the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 9 is 3, the square root of 16 is 4, the square root of 25 is 5, and the square root of 36 is 6. And this goes on forever. Perfect squares are easily square rooted. That being said, I'm going to minimize this, shrink it a bit, and I'm going to move it aside. Turns out that we can square and square root fractions as well. If I have the fraction 3/5 and I square it, what this says is 3/5 times 3/5. And in a previous lesson, we saw that this is 3 times 3, 9, over 5 times 5, 25. Notice that the numerator is a perfect square, 9. And the denominator, 25, is also a perfect square, 5 times 5. Which means if I took 9 over 25 and I square rooted that, like this, then what I would be asking is what fraction times itself gives me 9 over 25? This fraction times itself gives me 9 over 25, 3 over 5. But if I didn't know that off the top of my head, then what I could have done is said 9 over 25 and then square root the numerator and square root the denominator. This might make it easier to see that the square root of 9 is 3 over the square root of 25 is 5. The easiest way to find out what the square root of a number is, if it's a perfect number, is to construct a list of perfect squares as I did over here. 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared 25, 6 squared 36, 7 squared 49, 8 squared 64, 9 squared 81, 10 squared 100, etc. And then all you have to do is work backwards when square rooting to find what number times itself gives you what's under the square root.